Hey, I'm Brett Lindstrom. Welcome back to Like-Minded Arts, where I'm going from Hammer to Hollywood. 10 years ago, I was knee-deep in drywall dust, wondering if there was anything more to life than cult guns and cranky client change orders. Spoiler alert, there is. Now I write scripts, produce films, and occasionally still fix my own kitchen sink. This channel is my behind-the-scenes journey, equal parts inspiration, perspiration, and what was I thinking moments. If you've ever dreamed of swapping your day job for a creative one, or just want to watch a guy build a business in a dying industry after years of framing houses, stick around. Let's build something cinematic together. And hey, the only thing getting demolished around here is my own comfort zone. So have you ever wanted something so badly that you end up sabotaging your own self? So this has happened to me plenty, and I'm pretty sure it's happened to a lot of people. It's just something that they really want, but it just seems so far out of reach. So we're going to be actually talking about that today. This is the story of tiny choices that become your life. We're going to be talking about turning your wishes into not just goals, but actual achievable things. So stick around, this is going to be good. And hey, don't forget, at the end of this, I'm going to have a short skit that kind of deals with the same topic. Just my own little fun thing that I do in a lot of these shows. So yeah, that'll be at the end of the show this time. So today we are talking about self-mastery. Now, what I don't want you to think we're talking about is how we're going to moralize our willpower. That's not quite it. So this isn't really about making wishes into goals either. This is about actually changing our lives for the better. And let's face it, most of us, if we have a goal, if we have something that we want to achieve, it involves changing a part of who we are to actually make that work. And why is that? Well, it's because we've grown up a certain way our whole lives. Maybe it's our culture, our neighborhood, our friends, our family. Things have been influencing us from the outside and from the onset to make us who we are today. And sometimes that needs a little tweaking if we want to get where we're going. So most of us are not born disciplined, okay? We have to learn this. It's something that sometimes we're not even taught. And to become disciplined, we need to have a structure if it's not already in place. So today I'm going to show you my 3-core strategy to actually becoming that disciplined person, to becoming the person I want to become. And I'm actually going to give you a challenge and set up a simple way for you to achieve this challenge. So let's dive into it, and we're gonna change your life today, okay? Now, when I first started thinking about this topic, I was thinking about a time back when I was in junior high when I first had my real, maybe I had something that helped teach me discipline before then, but this one really stuck out to me because it was so there in the front of my mind. When you think about somebody in junior high, they're adolescent, they're just about to hit puberty or they're hitting it, and they got a lot of things going through their heads at that point, okay? And one of those is a challenge for a lot of people, especially if you are someone with values that does not encourage things like pornography and that really wants you to live a chaste life before you're married. And I grew up in that kind of a situation. I wanted to live up to the values that my church had taught me, which were to abstain from those kind of relationships until I was married. Now, in junior high, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. Everyone's got so many hormones and emotions running through their bodies that they don't know what to do with themselves, okay? And there was this one instance that I remember. I won't name names, and I hope that this guy's moved on from there, but he did some wildly inappropriate things in class and in the halls that let's just say a lot of guys would have preferred to keep behind closed doors. Anyhow, when my mom came to pick me up from school that day, because obviously as in junior high, I couldn't drive myself home, and we lived pretty far away, I told her about some of these things that he'd been caught doing. And, I kind of expected her to say something to the effect of, "Oh, can't believe someone would do that." I wasn't really sure what to expect from her. But she kind of took a more, I don't know how you'd say it, more of a calm approach to it. And I think just the way she approached it impacted me quite a bit. And at the end of her talking to me about this, she said, "I hope that you will never feel like this is something that you need to do also." And, I mean, naturally, I would have never wanted to do what he did, especially in public like that. But in private, there's a lot of boys who struggle with pornography and things that go along with that. So it got me thinking, and yeah, I'd been taught this in church, to keep a chaste life, and it really hit me then. And, as I went on, more hormones started coming, things were tempting, and, I always went back to that conversation that I had with her, and I was able to live a very chaste life after that because, even before that, because, that's just how I was brought up. But after that, when the temptations really started coming, I was able to say, no, that's not who I am. I don't do that sort of thing. And I was able to live the values that I'd been taught my whole life and which I actually really believed in. And living those values benefited me significantly in the long run because it helped me find the kind of a woman that I wanted to be my wife. She had lived those values her whole life too. And since we'd both lived those values, we had a really good, synergy together. We valued the same things, and we respected each other for having kept those kind of promises to ourselves. Now, growing up, living that chaste life, to some people, might have felt like a big sacrifice. For me, it didn't feel like a sacrifice because it felt like this is who I am. And that, I think, was the beginning of my understanding of how you change yourself to be what you want to be. It doesn't start with a goal or just a wish. It starts with a mindset. Another example that I had of this was when I turned 19, I wanted to go serve a proselyting mission for my church. I'm a part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and a lot of young men and young women are encouraged to go on a proselyting mission to share the gospel. And I really wanted to do this. It's a 2-year thing, and you're expected to pay your own way for it. You don't get paid by others to go. And so I saved up a lot of money throughout my whole working childhood, basically. I started working on a paper route when I was 12 years old. And after that, I sampled a lot of different things. Most of it was in the construction industry. And I put aside money every year so that I could go pay for this full-time mission for 2 years. And I was able to do that. And it wasn't so much of a sacrifice as it was, this is who I am. It was part of my journey. I was saving up money, not sacrificing for it, but that act of saving was part of my mission. And it was rewarding. It was so fulfilling. Not just going on the mission. When I went on the mission, I learned so much spiritually, culturally, and it just helped me grow incredibly as a person. But everything leading up to that was changing me for the better too. It helped me become more thrifty. It helped me put things in perspective of where I wanted them to be. It helped me do something now for something I wanted to become later. And when I got back from that mission, that mindset continued. So when I got back from my mission, I went to college. I got my finance degree at Utah State University, and I didn't go into debt for it. So I was working while I was doing it. I was paying off my tuition. I was paying off my rent. And I was still being able to go on dates. I was doing it thriftily, but I was still doing these things. And that was amazing because I had a goal that I wanted to buy a house. All right? I didn't want to graduate from college with a whole bunch of debt. I wanted to get married, and I wanted to be able to provide for my new family. And part of that was having a home. But to have a home, you got to save up for a down payment. And I was able to do this. I was even able to buy a new truck, a trailer, and outfit it with all the tools I needed for the construction job that I had started. And I was building houses, doing finished carpentry for other people, and it was great. And I lived so thriftily. For my meals, okay, so I love food, okay? I was something of a foodie, or at least I considered myself a foodie. And during that time, I ate almost nothing else but rice and eggs and microwave burritos. I mean, these were the cheapest things you could get. And are they the most healthy things in the world? I mean, not when that's all you're eating, but these things were items that I could purchase for practically nothing. I'd buy a 20-pound bag of rice, and I'd buy a 12-pack of eggs, and that was my meal for most of the week. And it was it was easy. And for me, it wasn't a sacrifice. I was saving money. Maybe I wasn't going out to eat all the time with my friends. Since I had the values that I had, I wasn't going out drinking and spending money doing that either. But I still went on dates. I still played with friends. I still got the education I needed. But I was able to slowly save up some money so that I could buy a house in the future. So I did that actually after I graduated from USU. I went and I bought my first condo. Now, granted, I didn't have a lot of money. I bought it in a ghetto neighborhood. It was pretty scary in some respects, but it was mine, and I was able to renovate it. And I mean, I did have to go into a little debt for it, but I was able to pay that off in 3 years. And during those 3 years, I was doing the same thing. I was eating practically nothing but rice and eggs and microwave burritos, ramen, just whatever was cheap. But I was actually still going out on dates. I was able to finally meet my wife, which was wonderful. We got married, and she moved in with me to that ghetto condo. But there's a lot of things that I did, and they didn't feel like sacrifices at the time. They felt like part of the journey to something bigger that I was going towards. But here's the thing. I didn't just have a goal. I had an identity. My identity was that I was a thrifty person and that I was the kind of person who was going to provide for my family, my future family, and I was going to eventually have a lifestyle that freed me to do a lot of things that I wanted to do. At the time, I didn't know that I wanted to be a creative person. I didn't know that I wanted to write books and make movies. But I did know that I wanted to have a secure financial footing for my family. I knew that I wanted to be able to take my family on vacations. I knew that I wanted to do all these nice things, and I knew that that's the kind of person I was. So this is a mindset. One of my favorite books of all time, and I'm really going to get into this in some of the financial episodes that I do down the road here, but it's called The Richest Man in Babylon. Okay, so in The Richest Man in Babylon, he has one story where he's talking about a slave. This slave is, he's not happy being a slave. I mean, who would be happy being a slave unless they're just really dumb and they don't enjoy, no one's going to like being a slave. Okay, we'll just stick with that. So he's a slave. He escapes. He gets caught. He becomes a slave again. He escapes again, and he keeps getting caught and sent back to the slavers. And there's just no way out for this guy. I mean, he can escape, yeah, but he is still a slave. One of these times he escapes and he meets a woman. Okay, she's a pretty sympathetic woman. She meets him and he's about ready to abscond, get out of Dodge, whatever, and she says, "You're going to be caught again. You're either going to be executed or you're going to go back into slavery." And he's like, "No, I'm not. I'm an escaped slave. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to run. They're never going to catch me." And she says, "Of course they're going to catch you. What do you think? You are an escaped slave." And he's like, "Well, yeah, of course I'm an escaped slave, but that doesn't mean they're going to catch me." And she said, "Until you stop seeing yourself as a slave or even an escaped slave, you are still a slave. You have that slave mentality. The only way to break this is for you to see yourself as your own master, to see yourself as a free man." And he got to thinking about that. Yeah, he was technically free because he had escaped, but in his mind, he was still a slave. He was an escaped slave. He was skulking about. He was hiding out from the people who would normally try to catch him. He had a big fat target on his back saying, I'm an escaped slave. Come pick me back up." okay? And for the rest of his life, he would have remained a slave. We see that in our day too. How many people do you know that are into drugs and they just can't get out of it? Or they seem to be in a habit of getting arrested and going back to jail and back to jail? Or, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that we can view this. People that are in a pattern of life that they just can't break out of. And it's because they see themselves as X. And until they see themselves as Y, they're always going to be X. And do you see yourself as being something and you want to be something else? That's the hard part because you'll keep being who you are until you see yourself as someone else. So let's break this down because there's a way that you can do this. I have a 3-core method here that I'm going to share with you that's going to help you. It's helped me because let's face it, we're not all disciplined. We don't all have all the answers or all the ways out of where we are right now. And it's really hard sometimes because we want to be somewhere else. We want to be doing the things that we know at our heart is our goals that's going to fulfill us in life. But discipline takes a lot of effort. But what if I told you there's a shortcut? I mean, it doesn't feel short, but once you do it, you find out this really was easier than I thought. So let's dive into it. This is my 3-core approach to changing who you are, not just setting a goal or a wish, but actually changing who you are inside. So the first thing you need to do is you need to make your goal. Okay, yeah, goal, all right. But this isn't just a regular goal. This is who are you? So we're going to make this goal. And we're actually going to keep this really simple for right now, okay? So for this goal, let's say that we want to make ourselves be a thrifty person. Or I don't know, maybe you want to start a business. You have an investment you want to do. So say 12 months from now, you want to be the person who saves $20,000. I don't know how much money you're making right now. Maybe you're making $50,000 a year. Maybe you're making $100,000 a year. I knew people who were making $250,000 a year and they were living paycheck to paycheck. They had zero money at the end of the year and they were getting deeper in debt and couldn't even afford a mortgage. And I know me, when I first started out, I was making $45,000 a year. I had pretty much my own house paid off. And so it doesn't matter where you're at. But let's just say, for instance, that your goal in this hypothetical situation is to save $20,000, okay? You're going to be a thrifty kind of person who at the end of the year has $20,000 to invest in something that they really want to do. Maybe a business, maybe, I don't know, whatever. Okay, so that's the first step of our 3-core system. The second one is to break it down into 12 parts. 12 parts or 12 pieces. Okay, so we're going to break this down into 12 parts or pieces because any goal is better if you can chunk it down in size. We can't just say, I'm going to save $20,000 this year, and then after the new year rolls around, maybe we do really good for the first few weeks or the first month, maybe even a month or two. But by the end of the year, what do we got left? Maybe we got $1,000 more than we would have had last year, or maybe we don't have any better financial situation than we had before. So we have to break it down and make it manageable. So how are we going to do that? Okay, well, let's start by listing all of the characteristics of this goal. And remember, this isn't just a goal, it's a who we are. So the 12 characteristics of someone who can save $20,000 a year. Well, let's just say what's something that someone could do to be thrifty. I think a thrifty person might avoid getting that soda pop or coffee every morning when they go into work. So let's say no soda or coffee. Oh my gosh, you just broke my religion. Gotta have my coffee every morning. Or, my Coke. Need my Coke. My Dr. Pepper. I get it. I used to drink, I wasn't into coffee, but I was into Dr. Pepper. I had a 12-pack of Dr. Pepper every single day for ever since I was in high school. And one day came where I decided I was going to quit caffeine. And you know what? I did it. But it was really, really hard. I had migraines for 2 months afterwards. It's not that easy. But let's say in our hypothetical situation that if we're going to save money, we're going to be the person who is thrifty enough that they don't need to spend money on a pointless beverage that's probably just hurting their health anyways, and that's going to save them money. What else could be something? Maybe you're the kind of person who works a 30-hour work week. Let's say you just bump that up to 40 hours a week and you work a full-time job just like every other American who works a full-time job. I mean, let's face it, 40 hours a week for me maybe is part-time. I work a lot more than that, but I know that in other parts of the world, less than 40 hours a week is the standard. But in America, 40 hours a week is a pretty standard full-time job. So make sure you're working your 40-hour week. That's going to make you more money, and really, you're barely going to notice the extra time if you're maybe just almost there, but not quite there. So let's get up to that. All right, then we are going to switch over to no fast food for lunch. Okay, so this is something that I struggled with when I was trying to save money. When I do construction, I sometimes the only thing to eat was fast food. Go to Wendy's, go to McDonald's, go to somewhere like that, and you get half-hour lunch break, so you got to find something fast. But every time you eat out, it's $5. Well, it was $5 when I was there. Now it's like at least $10 just to eat out, probably $15, depending on where you're at. And that's a big chunk of change. So where do you eat when you're at work? You pack a lunch. And you can actually eat pretty cheap by packing your own lunch. Would a thrifty person do that? Yes. Someone who's likely to save $20,000 a year is probably the kind of person who's going to bring their own lunch to work. What about when they go home? Maybe they're the kind of person who eats out all the time. So let's say they cook their own dinners. Hey, you just saved a whole bunch of money by making your own meals at home, okay? I get it. Eating out is nice, but maybe somebody who saves $20,000 a year is the kind of person who eats out sparingly, who likes to cook their own meals. Maybe they enjoy cooking their own meals. Maybe you could enjoy cooking your own meals at home. So these things don't have to be challenges. They can be things that you learn to actually enjoy too. We'll just finish filling out the rest of this as we go. You can kind of look and evaluate. Would this be something that a person who makes $20,000 a year would do? And I'm just kind of shooting by the hip. This could be different depending on you and how you see these 12 items, but let's try to make 12 items. And why 12? Because there are 12 months of the year, which will help us get into our challenge coming up that I'm going to show you that will really help you make the changes and implement them in your life. So let's go through and finish filling this out. Okay, so we've got these things. Less TV, less subscriptions. There's still free options out there. You can still watch some, but maybe you don't need that Netflix or Disney Plus subscription or Paramount Plus subscription. So you can watch less TV or watch free TV. Less alcohol. I don't personally drink alcohol, but a lot of people do. And maybe instead of having 2 or 3 bottles of beer a night, you cut back to 1 or none. Just, evaluate wherever you're at. Maybe you walk more. So instead of driving all the time, maybe you can walk someplace, save gas that way. You're also getting more healthy at the same time. Fuel efficient car. Who says that a thrifty person needs to drive the biggest, flashiest, fanciest car? You can drive something that's more fuel efficient and save a lot of money. Remember, we're changing who you are and how you see yourself. If you see yourself who needs to be the person who drives the biggest, best truck in the world, you're going to have a hard time saving money, okay? pay in cash. So if you're paying in cash, you're actually having to count the money that you're spending, and it does something psychologically to your brain where it helps you try to be more thrifty. If you're just swiping a card, I mean, that's almost like play money. I mean, maybe not really, maybe if you're really disciplined, but cash makes it easier. Pay off your credit card every month. So if you're paying off your credit card every month, then you're not incurring those late fees and that extra interest. I mean, some of these credit card companies, they'll charge in excess of 20% on interest. And when you compound that throughout the whole year, I mean, you could be paying so much money that, I mean, it's ridiculous. Why would anybody carry credit card debt? It's just the stupidest thing in the world. Learn to be handy. Rather than calling that plumber to come fix your house, learn how to fix that pipe yourself. Learn how to unclog your own drains. Invest your money. So if you're just saving $20,000 for the year, I mean, you're going to be doing this in increments. You're not going to be able to invest in some new startup company right away, but you can start putting it into a CD. You can put it into the stock market. You can put it into things that might make you some money while it's going there. And that's going to help you achieve that goal of being a thrifty person who makes an extra $20,000 a year. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the third part of this three-course system. This is what I call micro habits. Okay, so for micro habits, what we're going to do is we're going to take each one of these 12 items and we're going to break them down even further. So let's start out with number 1 here. No soda and no coffee. What is a micro habit of somebody who is cutting back on their soda and coffee? Well, let's think about it. For me, I'm going to use myself as an example. You might have a different way that you deal with this. But for me, I always stopped at the gas station on the way into work, and I would always pick up something like that. So what I would do is even if I had to go to the gas station, I would not go into the service station. So stay out of gas station. You got to fuel up outside, pay for your gas at the machine, and then move on from there, okay? Don't go inside where you're going to have all those sugary, caffeinated things that are tempting you to buy them because we're just starting out here. We're going to be weak, okay? So what you need to do is stay out of there. Maybe another micro habit could be drink herbal tea or water. So this is one of the tricks that I used. I started off with herbal teas because they still had some flavor and it felt like I was still getting something at least out of my drink. And but they were caffeine free and they were a great way to help me transition. And eventually all I really needed was water after that. And to this day, I crave water more than I crave soda pop or anything like that. I don't drink soda pop anymore. I mean, even if it's a non caffeinated version of soda pop, I don't feel a need to have it anymore. And so this is a micro habit that helped me break the bigger goal of no soda and no coffee. Like I said, no coffee to start with, but I still had that caffeine addiction from the Dr. Pepper. All right, what's another micro habit that you might include on here? And for me, work. So when I lose myself in work, I tend to get distracted enough that I'm not thinking about that addiction anymore. I tend to think that if I'm feeling tempted for it, I can find busy work for myself to do. I can find something that really engages my mind and even if I got a cup of water or a thing of herbal tea there, I'm not even tempted to grab that because I'm so distracted by the work I'm doing that I I just don't have that craving anymore. And so that's one of the habits that you can use. And your habits might be different. Maybe you see micro habits for quitting that as something completely. I mean, it's a situational thing. You got to do what works for you. Okay, but now that we have our 3-core changing method here, we're going to move into the challenge. And this is where we actually bring this together and help you make the change in your life. Okay, and this is where it really comes together. I've done this. It works, guys. So let's dive into it. Okay, so for our 4-week challenge, and I encourage all of you to do this because whatever your goals are, whether it's becoming a writer, a filmmaker, I mean, there's steps along the way, and honestly, we all have different things we need to be working on. Maybe you need to build up your financial footing first. I mean, that's what I had to do. I had to also build up the skill set. I had to build up the confidence to do these things. So these things can take time to fully build yourself into who you want to be. But let's start with your first step, whatever that is. We're going to say who or what kind of person, and we're not going to say what kind of person do you want to be. We're going to say what kind of person are you? This is your be, okay? And why do we phrase it like this? Because you've got to internalize who you're going to actually be when this is over, not a specific goal you're going to have accomplished. You're going to be this person. So for the first week, that's all we're going to do. You are going to, for the first week, as often as you can, you are going to work on believing in the new you. You're going to be telling yourself, I am the kind of person who does this. I am this person. Okay, so nothing else for the first week. And you're going to remind yourself of this every day, all day long. Okay? Easy enough. Think you can do that? I think you can do that. I've done it. It's not that hard to say, this is the kind of person I'm. And actually, when you're doing this, what it does is it rewires something in your head. It makes it so that the steps that come later actually are so much easier to accomplish, okay? And step 2 is in week 2. This is where we're going to actually incorporate. You remember from our 3-core strategy? We're going to take, first off, 4-week challenge. Does that sound like anything? This is 1 month, okay? This is a 1-month challenge. How many different pieces or parts did we break down our main goal into? We broke it down into 12. So this is one of those 12 items, okay? So for one of those 12 items, you're going to take the micro habits that you developed and you're going to work on those for just that one thing. So 1 part micro habits. So take the first item on your list, say it was the not drinking sodas and coffee every day, and you're going to work on the micro habits all week long. And you're going to do nothing else but make sure that these micro habits happen. Okay? Not going to compromise. No compromises here. No rewards for making it through the week. You are the kind of person who does these sorts of things because you do not do this anymore. Because why would this person do that kind of thing anymore, right? Okay, so week 2, you are working on your micro habits. Week 3, this is where you share. So you're going to share with somebody the new you. Pick this person carefully. You probably don't want this to be somebody who you've grown up with. You probably don't want it to be your best friend. I mean, it could be, but this needs to be somebody safe. Maybe a spouse, maybe a new friend, maybe maybe a pen pal online. I don't care who this is, but it needs to be somebody who doesn't expect you to be somebody else. We're not trying to set up an expectation for old you. We're trying to set up an expectation for a new you. And if this friend of yours is open and willing to accept the new you for the new you, then that is the person you want to share it with. So just share it with that one person and make sure it's somebody that you do interact with on some frequency. What that is going to do is that's going to set up an expectation whenever you're around them that's going to both help you keep these micro habits, and it's also going to create a sort of accountability for you. And whenever you see this person, it's going to remind you that they believe this is the new me. And so I have to live up to that. Okay. So for week 3, you share that with somebody. Maybe you spend a little more time with them. You make sure that that you are reinforcing who you are and that they are reinforcing who you are. Week 4. Oh, by the way, you're still doing all of these micro habits that whole week. Okay. You don't give up the micro habits just because you've shared it with someone. You don't reward yourself with a day off just because you're on week 2. And frankly, that's going to carry down into week 4. Okay. You don't give up any of your micro habits in any of these weeks. So in week 4, what you're going to do is evaluate. So you're going to evaluate yourself and you're going to say, did I like who I became or did I dislike who I became? Okay. If you liked who you became, then great. Success, okay? You have become this person who does these micro habits, and whatever this part was here that you were working on is part of who you are now, okay? And can you continue doing this? Yes, you can continue doing it because it's not really that hard to you anymore, okay? It's not nearly the insurmountable thing that maybe you thought it would be. If you dislike it, if you hate who you are, then maybe you need to go back and reevaluate your overall goal, okay? Is this part something that is just a bad part, a bad fit, or is my overall goal, my overall want lacking? Do I really want to become that kind of a person? Because if you hate yourself right now, you're going to hate yourself then. I mean, maybe you mistook one of your parts for, maybe you said, I don't want to be this person, so you moved out of state away from family and you realize, I love my family, I want to be around them. Maybe it was that piece that you got wrong, or maybe it's your overarching goal that's wrong, okay? So this is where you evaluate, is the new me who I want to be? Let's say for now that it is. So what you're going to do is you're going to keep everything in here. You're going to continue it onto the next month, but in the next month, you're going to start over with part 2. Okay? And for part 2, you're going to go through these same steps. You're going to say, I am the kind of person who, what was our second thing? Who works a 40-hour work week. Okay? You're going to internalize that for a full week. You're going to say, yes, this is who I am. Then you're going to go through the micro habits of who does that. You're going to share it with somebody. That one's going to be easy because you're going to be around people who you work with. But you can see how every single month you've got a new part to work on that supplies your overarching goal. And by the end of 1 year, you are this person, okay? You don't have to have it as a goal anymore. You've internalized all these micro habits. You've internalized the pieces that make up that person who you are. And you know what? It's not a sacrifice. It is a state of being. And it's part of your overall journey to being who you want to be. And frankly, as you go through this, the people who you maybe didn't share these steps with initially, they're going to start seeing this in you. Your family, your best friends, it's going to be hard for them not to notice the change in you. And as you become that person, they're going to eventually accept who you are. Maybe they won't accept who you are. I've known people who've been disowned for things that they wanted to become. And yeah, I mean, that is what it is. But if it's something that really matters to you and you want to become this person, you can become it. And they'll eventually see that. And eventually, they'll hopefully accept you for who you now are. And guess what? You have been successful. Good job. I really hope that this has provided some value to you folks. I've got a lot more content coming that's going to really change your life, especially if you're like me and you're trying to completely reshape your entire future. I mean, I'm trying to become a writer and an independent filmmaker, and this is part of my journey. I've had to go through all of these things, and like I said, it took me 10 years to put out a full plan of how I was going to do that. But I'm on my way, guys. I am at the end of that 10-year journey, and I'm launching this career. Wherever you're at in your career, first develop the first step, which is mastering yourself, okay? And if you remembered, to stick around to the end for the little skit that I did, which happens to be on being a master or being a slave. That skit's coming up here. But don't forget before you leave to like and subscribe. And also, by the way, I have a new podcast that I've started up. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. It's called the Light-Minded Arts Podcast. And I'm actually going to be bringing on guests who are on this same journey as you and me, okay? They are writers, they're filmmakers, they're creatives. Some of them are going to be financial experts. These people are going to help us get to where we need to go. So if you're, say, in your car driving somewhere and you just want to listen to some of this content, pull up the podcast and still be enjoying the content without having to see any visuals. So it's going to be great, guys. I look forward to all the things I've got coming for you guys. I've got a full year of amazing content planned for you. Join me and let's learn all this together. And by the way, fill out the comment section below with some of the things that you're wanting to change, some of your goals. I would love to see where you're at on your journey. And hey, maybe in the comments we can kind of work with each other and help each other out so that we can become who we want to become. I'll see you next time.